Hi guys, I'm Mpo.
And I'm Calvin.
Welcome to our YouTube channel. If you're watching for the first time, don't forget to smash the subscribe button because we're trying to build a community with you, and also don't forget to comment down below because we want to engage with you so that we also learn from you as you learn from us.
And guys, did you know that I think one of the studies that we read up on is that businesses fail in terms of partnerships because they actually go into the partnership due to money and not actually clearly defining what the business is about and what their visions are and values about their business.
Which is why today we have an aspiring attorney by the name of Nash Ricky Mohale, who will be taking us through business partnerships, and he will also be showing you what are some of the things that you need to look out for to ensure that you don't have failed partnerships and enjoy the consequences that come with it. Let's jump right into today's video. Hi Nash, and welcome to our YouTube channel.
Hi, I'm Paul. Hi, Calvin.
How are you doing
happy
today?
to be here with you guys today. I hope you guys are well too.
We are well. Are you well?
I'm fantastic. Fantastically fantastic.
Awesome. So before we jump into today's questions, give us a little bit of background about yourself, like who you are, where you studied, what your aspirations are.
Okay. My name is Nash Ricky Mohale. I'm from Soweto, Pretoria North. I'm a final year LLB student at the University of South Africa. And I would say I'm an aspirant attorney because a few years to come I will be admitted as an attorney. And I aspire to be a criminal law specialist one day, looking specifically into public prosecution. So what that means is I will be working for the NPA, hopefully, as a public prosecutor. And then I also have interest in medical law and medical ethics and company law.
Nice one.
So you'll be saving us from COVID-19, but through the eyes of law.
No, well, not necessarily like that. Medical law and ethics, it is around the patient, but it most likely deals with ethics of medical practitioners and the procedures that should be followed in terms of medical practitioners, like the appointment of medical practitioners and how medical practitioners can be dismissed in their line of work.
Oh, okay. Okay, no, that's nice then, yeah.
Awesome. So let's just go into one of the questions that one of our viewers asked. So what she wanted to know was that if she wanted to go into like a partnership agreement with somebody on her business, what kind of partnership agreements are they?
Okay, well, before I come to what kind of partnership agreements, let me talk about the types of partnerships that she can jump into. So she can either jump into an extraordinary partnership or an ordinary partnership. Those are the main two partnerships. And then there's also a personal liability partnership that she can go into, but that one is most likely for professionals. So I would suggest, if she is not really a professional, for example, an attorney or a medical practitioner, to jump into ordinary partnership, whereby an ordinary partnership are partnerships whereby all the partners can contribute different things. For example, skill, or another partner can contribute money.
Awesome.
Yeah, so with that being said, for a contract to be valid, what would that entail, or what should they take into consideration?
Okay, so partnership contracts. These type of contracts are what we generally call partnership agreement, right? But then even though they are a special type of contract, the partnership agreement is still a contract. So it should satisfy the requirements of a contract. So it should comply with all the requirements of a contract. And there are 5 requirements that need to be satisfied for a contract to be concluded. And the requirements are that there must be an agreement between the parties. The parties to the contract must have a contractual capacity. The contract and performance must be legally possible, and the performance must be physically possible, and the contractual formalities, if any, must be complied with.
Okay.
So when we speak of agreement, what that necessarily means is the parties to the contract must reach an agreement about the nature and content of the contract. And then when we speak of contractual capacity, we mean that the parties to the contract must have contractual capacity. So they must be able to enter into a contract. And then when you talk about legality, what that means is that the contract as well as the business of the partnership must be lawful or contrary to boni moris of society, which are good morals of society. And then when we speak of formalities, they are not necessarily general formalities about the contract. And then conditions and terms must also be included in the contract.
Awesome. So let's say now, right, this candidate chooses to go into an ordinary partnership, right? And let's say the other partner has has assets and the other one has skills. Would you say that they can have like a 50-50 share in the business?
Absolutely. So in terms of a partnership, it is not necessarily for a partner to produce only money as an asset or a contribution. Partners can contribute skill, or they can contribute something such as copyrights or expertise of labor. So it does not necessarily restrict partners to contribute money. And in terms of the division of sharing profits, it will be according to the partnership agreement, right? So if the partners agree that, okay, I will provide my skill, and then the other partner says, I will provide, for example, R1 million, and then let's agree that we will share 50-50, that is legally possible.
Okay. So just another link to that question. If we were to decide to liquidate the partnership, let's say the one party came into it with skills, the other party came into it with financial capital. Is it fair for them to divide the assets equally?
Absolutely. So if the contract or the partnership agreement, right, states or gives a solution to when dissolution comes into play, how should the assets be dissolved, and for example it says 50-50, even if one partner contributed the skill and the other partner contributed the money, it is still some sort of a contribution to the partnership. Like I said, contribution does not necessarily have to be money. So it is fair, as per partnership agreement, for parties to share according to the partnership. If, let's say, the partnership was a share of 50-50, it is perfectly fair for such partners to share in that manner.
Awesome. So the other question from one of the viewers was that let's say they go into a partnership agreement, right? And the business fails. Is there a way of them protecting their personal assets from being taken or being mixed up in all of that?
Yes. Well, what I would suggest asset protection, right? So asset protection is, let's say, some sort of insurance whereby it's about protecting your personal wealth from the threats of business liabilities, which can be a real danger to both yourself and the company, or the partnership. So the first step to protecting your personal assets from your business creditors is that you need to understand the corporate structuring of your business, and it determines how much of your personal assets are at risk. I would say if a person wants to protect their assets 100%, whereby that person wants to how do I put it? That person wants to bring a distinction between their personal assets and the company's assets. I would suggest that they go into opening a private company, which is a PTY Ltd, because PTY Ltds, they have a separate legal entity. So what that means is the PTY Ltd itself will have its own personality, whereby we will call it a juristic person on its own. So it means it will have its own assets, whereby it can get into contracts or get credit on its own name without implicating the shareholders of the company. So I would suggest that the partners or the people that want to team up into a business should rather go into a PTY Ltd if they want to fully protect their personal assets from the partnership.
Okay, no, I get you on that one, Nash, and it's actually quite a good point that you're raising there. Yeah, and Nash, with another one here, I did commercial law a while back when dinosaurs were still alive. So I just want to know, I came across something called a verbal agreement. So I want to know, in the eyes of the law, does this stand in terms of partnerships goes?
Well, the law prescribes no general formalities regarding the formation of partnership agreements. So the agreements may therefore be concluded either in writing, orally, or even technically. The parties to the contract may, however, agree amongst themselves that certain formalities have to be complied with. For instance, that the contract must be put in writing and signed by all prospective parties before it will be binding. So in such a case, no partnership arises before compliance with the agreed formalities is achieved. So, well, I would suggest that partners should conclude a written contract, as it would be easy to prove certain things that are agreed upon if a dispute arises. But in terms of the law, verbal agreements are also they also qualify, or they also may result or will result in the conclusion of a partnership agreement.
That is awesome. And then another question would be, let's just say, starting up, a lot of people don't have a lot of finances, so people might not have finances even for to pay a lawyer. So would you advise two people who are starting their business to go into a partnership? Can they go on Google and just find a contract that they just put together and agree on it, or would you strongly advise that they seek a professional law practitioner?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily advise that. Because like I said in the previous question, there is no formalities that should be followed in terms of the contract, whereby it has to be drafted in a certain way, or it has to be said in a certain way, or whatnot. As long as the parties satisfy the requirements of the contract that I spoke about in the very first question, and then the parties understand what they are agreeing upon on the written contract, then that contract will be valid. So it is not necessarily for parties to actually go to an attorney and ask an attorney to draft up the written contract, because the law does not necessarily bring about how should the contract be drafted. So as long as the parties understand each other that this is how we're going to dissolve the assets, this is how we're going to share profits, this is your contribution and whatnot, and they can understand that contract, and the contract is possible to actually be a contract, then what the contract that they draft without the help of a professional, it will still be valid. It will still be valid.
Okay, that's quite clear there. Yeah, so Nash Ricky, one of the questions we got from one of our viewers, it had to relate with the partners. So let's say in the partnership, one of the partners, were to take an uncalculated decision. And with that being said, that decision then causes the business to fall. Does the one partner that was not part of that decision have some form of ground to sue the partner that took the decision?
Well, it will depend on the conduct that the partner has done. So yes, bring an action against another partner, especially if that action or especially if the conduct from the partner was a delictual conduct or a trot. So then you would need to go by a way of an action when there is a dispute of facts. For example, I said this, you said that. So this involves issuing a summons and going to court to run a trial where witnesses called to testify, and then the judge will make a decision based on the evidence presented. And then you would go by way of an application where there is no dispute of the fact. For example, I have an agreement with Mpho, and in writing that Mpho will do XYZ, but then she did not do so, and I want to order him or her to do that thing. I would then file an affidavit explaining the backgrounds and attach it to all the relevant documents, which would be my evidence. And Mpho would have the opportunity to file an affidavit as well, putting her evidence on record, and the matter would then be argued before a judge, and the judge would make a decision based on a balance of probabilities. So yes, it is possible for partners to bring actions against one another. It would just depend on what kind of conduct did the prejudicing partner do.
Oh, okay. So I think we've covered all the questions from the viewers. So thank you so much. So what are your parting words? What advice would you give to somebody who's saying, I'm just starting this whole business thing. I want to go into partnerships, but I have no idea in terms of like commercial law, like what to do. I have no in terms of that. What advice would you give the person?
Okay, so my advice to a person or people who want to start up partnerships is that when they are contracting or when they are concluding their contracts, the contracts should satisfy all the requirements of a contract that I've spoken about earlier on in the interview. But I would suggest for people who would want to team up into opening a business to actually go into or start up a private company, PTY Ltd to be specific. That kind of a company has limited liability, and what limited liability means, the company's debts the company's debts belong to the company itself and does not necessarily include the shareholders of the company, unlike in a partnership. In a partnership, the company's debts are also the personal debts of the partners. So for someone who is upcoming in the business world, who wants to start up a be partners with someone, I would suggest that they go into a PTY LTD, opening a PTY LTD company than a partnership, because it is less stressful, because a PTY LTD has a separate legal entity, unlike a partnership that does not have a separate legal entity that has unlimited liability, and it's a bit stressful for someone who is not really let's say business savvy, if I can put it that way.
Okay. No, Ricky, you said a mouthful filled with law. Thank you for just coming to our vlog and just inspiring us to go study law again. Yeah. And I hope the viewers are better equipped now to handle these partnerships or these PTYLTDs. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, no, I think that's all from our side.
Fantastic. It was a very great interview. I enjoyed myself here, and I hope we will have a good working relationship in the upcoming videos.
Okay.
Yeah, he said working relationship or partnership. After all the advice you've given us.
Okay, no, thanks, man, Ricky. Cheers.
Fantastic.